God, we welcome you into this place, asking that you would give us this day our daily bread. May we not travel too far in the future, trying to consume and handle bread that has yet to be baked. May we not travel too far into the past, for that bread has gone stale and moldy. But may we find ourselves here in this present moment with the bread on the table, the bread that we know how to consume. And so may it be that we find presence here in this moment with our daily bread, and nourished by that which is given to us here in the present. May we walk the path of belovedness to the place where there is nothing to prove, nothing to lose, nothing to fear, nothing to gain. God, would you be our companion on that path? Amen. Growing up, I lived in between two churches. So like on one side of my house was the church where my dad was a pastor. And then on the other side was this Catholic church. And so like at any given moment, folks would come to our house and they'd like have something they needed. In my entire childhood, on any given school day, my parents would host 20 to 30 high school kids. My mom would cook a big pot of chili or have like 100 burritos that she microwaved, and kids would come from the high school over to our house to have a homey place to enjoy lunch. You know, one of my mom's greatest legacies is her listening ear and deep wisdom. Like, she was really sick, and so she could never really get out of her chair. Like, there were times where she was so sick, but folks would come over from all over the community just to sit in our living room with my mom because they know she could hold space for them. She would listen and offer deep, deep wisdom. Again, this just hospitality is something I saw exemplified through my parents' example. My dad has spent thousands of hours as a counselor holding space for people in his office in their darkest times. And I think it was this spirit of hospitality that I was shown, which led me to start a coffee company with my friends. It was through working in the service industry that I was able to deploy that which I was taught to do growing up. I was able to exemplify a spirit of care and hospitality for my community through the coffee company. 3 months before my son, our very first child, was born, my mom passed away after battling a lifelong illness. And so when this happened, I jumped into action, caring for everyone around me. I spoke at my mom's funeral and made the arrangements. We had to create space for my dad and my brothers to just process and grieve, all while I was preparing my home for our firstborn to arrive into this world and taking care of my wife, who was about ready to give birth. It was a lot. And then as the weeks went along, we prepared our home for my son to be born, and he arrived beautiful and healthy. His arrival into our story was kind of like a light at the end of the tunnel. I had just gone through one of the darkest seasons of my life, and I was looking forward to my son arriving and bringing the joy that only a child could bring. And he really did. And then one morning I woke up and my wife told me I had been in bed for 8 straight days. Something was terribly wrong. My body had simply turned off, and we both recognized that I needed help. And so I started to see a therapist, and it was wildly helpful. He gave me the tools I needed to get back out of bed and back to work. And while these tools really helped me get my life back and navigate my depression, there was a spiritual lingering inside this dark night in my soul that needed tending to. And it just didn't quite feel like my therapist had language that could speak to the spiritual undertones of my depression. I had believed for my whole life that God loved me, that God cared for me and was there for me. But in this darkness, it felt so lonely. It felt like I was so distant from the God that I was taught about. It seemed impossible to find God. My entire spirituality, if I was going to be honest, was on the table in this season. I didn't know what to believe. I didn't know where God was. And if God was there, why was everything that I was taught about God growing up not helping me in my greatest time of need? It was a wilderness. It was a dark night of the soul. Like, I felt more lost than I had ever felt. And you know, when you go through seasons like this, the questions you ask, wandering through the darkness in the wilderness, wondering if life even has any meaning, these are good things to do, I believe. They're helpful things. They're all things that we experience on our journey. But I think one of the most important things to recognize is that these journeys aren't journeys to be explored alone. And so as I was going on this journey, my wonderful, wise wife suggested that I see a spiritual director, that I find someone that can help me walk this spiritual wilderness with, someone who would be my companion, my friend, my loving partner, as I ask these deeply intimate and spiritual questions. What I'm so thankful for is that my spiritual director didn't tell me what to do or how to be. He simply walked with me as I was processing everything that I was going through. He was a companion, a non-judgmental friend that helped me address and explore and process everything that was going on inside of me. If I was to be honest, having a spiritual director is the best gift I was ever given on my spiritual journey. As I continued along in this spiritual journey, I realized something incredible about the way in which my spiritual director was caring for me. Sure, he was caring for my physical and my spiritual needs while I was navigating the wilderness, but he was doing so in an incredibly special way. He was leveraging hospitality. He curated a space where I felt safe enough to go to the darkest parts of my soul and look for the light that dwelled within. What was so amazing was that David, my spiritual director, was using the two core themes of my life, care and hospitality, to help me find the healing I needed in my soul. The example my parents had set, downloading beautiful examples of hospitality into me, was the same pathway that was taking me toward the light that had been gone for so long. And it was because I felt so safe in his presence that I was able to honestly and authentically explore the wilderness in my soul. And the more I explored these deep crevices that I never really had permission to explore before, it was in those places that I found God. It was in these places that I found the divine whispering to me, "Tyler, you belong. Tyler, you are the beloved. Tyler, your grief belongs here." And as I began to experience the care and hospitality of my spiritual director, and as that hospitality led me towards more healing and freedom, I began to realize this deep longing I had in my own soul. This longing to leverage the hospitality I was shown as a child to help others find God in their wilderness as well, which is what led me to sell my coffee company. And then I trained at a monastery for 2 years to become a spiritual director. You know, it's become my greatest privilege to become a safe and trusting friend walking alongside others as they navigate their spirituality, looking for God in the muck and beauty of it all. You know, as a spiritual director, I'm not here to tell you what to do or how to be. I'm simply here to be your friend, to walk alongside you as we figure it out together. You know, as we walk alongside and are curious, asking questions through the darkness and the light, together, we might just discover how beloved we truly are.